Hey everybody, I'm here today to tell you how to tell when it's time for a new car battery, okay? Now, a battery is something that you don't want to sort of leave unattended to if you feel like you need a new car battery. If you're seeing some of these signs and symptoms together, you should definitely look into getting a new car battery, simply because a battery can leave you stranded. And yes, you can get your car jumped, you can jump start your car, but that's only good until the next time that you shut your car off. So with that being said, you should definitely look into these signs and symptoms. If you start seeing them, you should look into whether or not you need a new battery, okay? Now let's get right to it. The first thing that will allow you to know whether or not it's time for a new car battery, and this is probably the most prevalent out of all of them, is a slow start. So when you go to start your car, you go to crank your engine, and then all of a sudden you hear like vroom, 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 and the engine starts. That's a good sign that your battery might be, or I should say is probably, on its way out. Now, does that automatically mean you should go get a new battery tonight? No, because there are other things that can cause that. But it's definitely one sign or symptom that you should look into, okay? Now, you should keep this in mind that if it's extremely cold outside, your car might feel sluggish to start and your battery's in perfectly good shape, but it's just because it's extremely cold outside. So keep that in mind. Like I said, it doesn't mean you have to automatically go and replace your battery. It just means that you have to look into it, and you're looking for multiple of these signs and symptoms together, okay? The next thing is a dashboard warning light. Now, many cars have a dashboard warning light that allows you to know that there's something wrong with the charging system or the battery or some of the components that are connected to the battery in the form of a battery light. It literally looks like a battery. Now, that one, like I said, if you just see a battery light, it doesn't mean go replace your battery right now. It means you should look into it, and you're looking for multiple of these signs and symptoms together. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is your headlights dimming, or I should say anything that is electronic in the car not working at 100% efficiency. And that's because all of these electronic things use the power from your battery to run. So if your battery is dying, or if your battery is in bad condition, then guess what? It's going to make your headlights extra dim. It's going to make certain electronic functions and features in your car not work properly. So if you notice something's odd, whether it's your headlights being dim or some other electronic feature not working properly, then you should look into your battery. And that actually happened to me with my old car, that I noticed some weird electronic things happening, that when I was steering in one direction, what happened was the radio system would completely reset, and I was just steering and I couldn't figure out what it was, and I replaced the battery. I cleaned the posts first and it stopped, so then I replaced the battery. So speaking of that, if you have a lot of corrosion, that's the next thing, built up on your battery terminals or the posts, then you should definitely clean them and look into what's causing that corrosion. And you might look into a new battery in the near future if you continue getting more and more corrosion on those terminals and posts. The next thing that I want to talk about is a swollen battery case. Now, excessive heat can pretty much cause the casing of a battery to swell up. So when you buy a battery, it has flat sides on the case and a flat bottom, and most likely a flat top too. But what happens is when your battery experiences excessive heat, especially if there's excessive cold and then excessive heat, so a lot of fluctuations, then what can happen is the casing starts to swell. And at that point, that's something that's physically wrong with the battery. So you want to look into replacing it sooner than later, sooner as opposed to later. So keep an eye on the surfaces of the battery, on the casing of the battery, because if it swells up and if it sort of looks bloated, then you want to look into getting a new battery sooner than later. And last but not least, this one is one that gets overlooked all the time, and that's simply old age. Now, many people wait until they see these signs and symptoms to replace their battery because they want to get an extra 3 months or 6 months out of the life of their battery. But if your battery gets to a certain age and you know that it's not going to last much longer, then you might want to consider just replacing it, and saving yourself from the hassle of getting stranded or having a slow start or having dimming headlights and having to sort of rush to the mechanic to get it replaced, or rush to buy the battery yourself if you want to replace it yourself. So with that being said, batteries can last many, many, many years, but I would say that after the 3 to 4 year mark, you should definitely look into the condition of your battery and decide whether or not you want to replace it. If you've had your battery for 3 or 4 years and it's perfectly fine, you check out the battery fluid level, everything looks fine, there's no corrosion, then by all means, maybe don't replace it yet. But once you're pushing after the 4-year mark, you might want to look at getting a new battery just to save yourself the hassle of, having to get stranded before you replace the battery. And yes, I know that you might be able to get 3 months, 6 months, even another year out of that battery, but you have to think, getting 1 more year out of that battery, is it worth being stranded or being, almost stranded? Is it worth it? It's for some people it's worth it, for some people it's not. So you have to decide that. But that's basically it. I just wanted to go over a few simple things that will allow you to know whether or not it's time to actually get a new car battery. There are many signs and symptoms that I haven't spoken about in this video, and some of these signs and symptoms are not even, they might not even be your battery. Your car might be experiencing these signs and symptoms and it's not your battery. So all I'm saying is that if you see some of these, especially in conjunction with each other, look into your car battery further to see whether or not you should be replacing it. Do the appropriate testing to see whether or not you should be replacing it. Okay, don't automatically just say, well, he said those signs and symptoms, I see 2 of them, let's go replace it. Look into it further, because you might replace your battery and meanwhile something else is causing the problem, so you haven't really fixed the problem. So just keep that in mind. Cars are a very intricate, they're intricate things to figure out with regards to when something's wrong, what to replace. So you should do the appropriate testing before you replace things like the battery. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Let me know what you think down below as a comment. What are some other battery signs and symptoms that you've seen when a battery is on its way out, when a battery needs to be replaced? Let me know as a comment, and of course be sure to subscribe for more great car and driving videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.